Year 1946. The place, Metro Goldwyn Mayer Studios in Culver City, California. One of the major problems confronting law enforcement agencies is the proper handling of strikes and other labor demonstrations. A valuable lesson in strike duty can be learned by viewing the authentic scenes depicted in this film, made during the strike at the MGM Studios in Culver City. Notice the inadequate police protection at this studio gate, which allows the strikers to assault the various drivers. This situation requires a sufficient number of properly trained and equipped officers who will be able to block off the pickets, thus allowing ingress and egress of authorized vehicles. Remember, whenever the strikers are successful in an assault, they become bolder in their actions, thus greatly increasing your problem. Controlling these small groups will assist you in controlling the greater mass of strikers, as these assaults are a stimulus to the actions of the mob. You can't do your police work properly, however, unless you understand the various ordinances and injunctions pertaining to legal picketing. If you are confused, discuss this with your superior officers before you are on the picket line. Knowing the law and having the determination to enforce it will give you a psychological advantage. Notice the picket on the left tying his shoe in front of the oncoming car in an effort to delay the driver. The officer should be on the alert for tricks like this. Many of these pickets have a martyr complex and will subject themselves to personal injury to achieve this martyrdom. Here the sheriff's gas car is in flames due to a lack of protection for this vital equipment. Another expensive lesson to be learned the hard way. Observe how the officers divide the pickets in order to allow the buses of non-strikers to enter the studio. Bringing some of the buses through another gate was effective in splitting the picket forces. The pickets are gathered about this sound truck in order to hear the reading of the injunction pertaining to their picket activities. Notice how the officers are properly moving the pickets back a sufficient distance from the driveway. The pickets are now limited in number by the injunction and are momentarily complying with the order while the relief pickets take up the march. The pickets are now employing the semi-passive resistance technique. Notice how they are locking their arms while in a sitting position in order to resist the officers in removing them. This can be very effective if allowed to continue and should be dispersed as soon as possible. You will note that in numerous scenes, various photographers are operating, with many of them on the alert for any sign of so-called police brutality. Again, it is plain to see here the number of officers is inadequate. It is of interest to note that in most of these scenes, there's been a large number of spectators across the street. This group should be kept broken up whenever possible, as some rabble-rouser may fan them into concerted action against you, as witness the crowd surging toward the patrol wagon. Now additional officers must come to the scene in order to force them back. One of the techniques in mass picketing is to stage a large parade around the industry affected. Here they show their strength, display their placards, and carry numerous American flags in order to establish a spirit of patriotism for the benefit of the spectators. As seen here, the rainy weather is no obstacle to a determined group of demonstrators. The officers' raincoats proved to be a handicap in some instances, as the strikers pulled them over the heads of the unlucky occupants and then proceeded to beat them. Here the officers are dispersing the paraders. By remaining in a solid group, the officers can move in effectively. Don't allow yourself to become separated, however, from the group of officers, as was the case in the still picture you are about to see. The downed man in the gutter at your right was decoyed into a group of strikers and severely mauled. If the other two officers had not drawn their guns, he would probably have been killed. Of course, there's always the ham actor type of picket who will put on an act of anguish whenever he feels the cameras are trained on him, as witnessed here. And then, too, there's usually the picket who makes it a point to dress like a war hero. This studio officer was severely injured trying to guard one of the numerous gates. Another good argument for enough men to prevent incidents like this. It is scenes like this that indicate the animosity of such a crowd. Again, we have a demonstration parade showing several of the officers saluting the numerous American flags. You are considered to be in formation on these details, and it is not necessary to keep saluting each flag. Notice the deployment of the sheriffs with one line facing the spectators and the other facing the paraders. It is interesting to note here that as the buses enter on the second day of the strike, there is a much larger number of officers on duty as compared to the first day, when they had only 50 for the entire outside of the studio. Observe the ease of entry here as compared to the earlier scenes in this picture. Thank you.